Hello friends, for today's video I'm going to be chatting through some books that I've recently unhauled as well as talking about some what I'm calling library saves. I used to combine my unhauls with my DNFs because a lot of times those books would inevitably go hand in hand, but I actually wanted to combine my unhaul with my library saves because I also think these go hand in hand, but also for a couple of reasons. My libraries are amazing. Libraries in general are amazing, and I just want to shout them out more often, just kind of as a reminder in general, like, hey, check out your local library, support your library, check out some of the apps that are available through the library like Hoopla and Libby, which are the ones that I'll be talking about today. And then also just because I read a lot of new releases, and obviously it can cost a lot of money to try and constantly buy these new releases. I often am shouting out my local used bookstores, but that's a little different because those are usually used and thus a little less expensive. And two, I often have store credit, and you're not going to find new releases as often at the local bookstores. So it really helps me financially to go to the library. I also just think libraries are amazing for communities for so many different reasons. So I just wanted to find a way to give them some attention more frequently. Anyway, though, I'm going to be going through some books that I read, and some of them I actually did enjoy, but maybe I'm not in a rush to go find them brand new. Maybe I'll wait till I see them at my local bookstore, and thus I'm really grateful for the library that I was able to access them before having to actually purchase it. And then also some of them I'm glad that I didn't purchase them because I would have ended up unhauling them. So anyway, we're going to just jump into it. The first thing on this list would be Age of Myth by Michael J. Sullivan. And this was something that I actually got at a local used bookstore, so not a library save. And I actually got a signed copy as well. It's kind of tricky to find Sullivan's books, especially in hardcover, because he has a hybrid way of publishing where sometimes it's traditional, sometimes it is indie. So when I found this copy at my local bookstore for a pretty inexpensive price, I was really excited. I did not hate this book by any means. I just find that thus far, the couple of things I've picked up by Sullivan have not really been for me. There's something about his humor that I just don't click with. And the way that his characters are written, I just feel like I want a little bit more from them. So I ended up putting this up on the app Pango. And that's always kind of exciting. If you don't know how Pango works, it's essentially like a used bookstore in app form. And it was nice because then I was able to have somebody else who probably is a big Michael J. Sullivan fan have access to this for a much cheaper price than what you would find online. So it went somewhere nice. I didn't unhaul it at my local bookstore, but I did kind of pass it along in a electronic used bookstore. Anyway, next up, I don't know why I said that so weird. Next up, we have Best Served Cold. I now have, if I shimmy over, it's up there. I now have the broken binding edition of Best Served Cold. Previously, I had a version that was the one that has the main character on the cover. It's kind of a cheesy cover. It's not really my favorite. It's got the girl looking all menacing, holding her sword. And I kept it for a while because I did like the floppiness of the paperback. And I liked the book, so I wasn't planning on getting rid of it anytime soon because I'm like, I really like this book. And then I got that edition from Broken Binding, and I'm like, well, I don't really need this goofy cover anymore, so I took that one in. The next one would be the Arrows trilogy, specifically the audiobooks for this entire first trilogy. App Hoopla is really great because they might not have as wide of a selection as the app Libby, but if you do find something available on Hoopla, you do not have to wait. There's no holds where somebody else has the copy and you have to wait. You understand how it works. I don't need to explain. So it was great because for all of the Arrows trilogy, for the audiobooks, I just found them on Hoopla. Oftentimes, older works are more likely to be on Hoopla. So it was really awesome that I did not have to spend any audiobook credits or anything like that to have access to the audiobooks. I did already have a bind up of the physical. No surprise, it was also a floppy paperback. So I really liked the first book in this trilogy. It is a bind up, so I didn't love the second and thirds, but I did absolutely love that first one. And I actually quite liked the narration. So thanks, Hoopla/the library. Next up would be Downfall. This was a manga. It was only a single volume, and it's one of those stories where the main character is so unlikable. And I don't think that I'm necessarily supposed to feel bad for him. My interpretation of this manga was that Inio Asano was trying to criticize the romanticizing of the tortured artist, when oftentimes the tortured artist is a jerk, is the absolute worst. They do things that are horrible. And I feel like he was showing you just how horrible that person can be and how they can still seem normal. They can still kind of function and be around other people. But that meant I was following this horrible person for this whole, it was only one volume, but I was like, ugh, this guy. I could not stand him. He did awful things. Truly, truly, truly awful things, especially like the further in you get. So I'm glad I got it from my library. After that, we have the Clockwork Boys and the Wonder Engine is its sequel. And these were by T. Kingfisher. T. Kingfisher is an author that I've checked out quite a few books of hers at this point. The journey started with Nettle and Bone, and it's been a pretty nice journey. This was not one of my favorites, unfortunately. I didn't hate it, but it was a little underwhelming, I think. So it was kind of something nice to listen to here and there. I got access to the physical copy of the first one from the library, and I listened to the audiobook, and then for the sequel, I think I just listened to the audiobook. But of T. Kingfisher's works, these ones are not ones that I feel the need to have on my shelf. So I'm glad I can stop saying that. I got these ones from the library. Yay. Moving on. Next up, we have the book Unseelie. I actually quite liked this one. It's a young adult story that definitely feels very youthful, and the main character is on the spectrum, and the author herself is also on the spectrum, and she found it to be very, very important for her to write something that was very true to how she experiences the world. And when I talked about this book in a wrap-up, it was just lovely to see some people saying, I am reading this book right now, and I really do feel like this is actually showing what it's like for me. And that is always lovely, lovely, lovely to see. And it also had a fun story. It was kind of adventurous. I think it's a kind of young adult story that actually feels like it is young adult, that it's meant for people from the ages of 12 through 18, maybe a little on the younger end of that. And it seems like young adult has been aging up, aging up, aging up because a lot of adults read it. And it feels as though publishing is trying to cater to that older audience, and it feels like we're leaving behind that younger end. So I'm really grateful for books like this, and I did have fun with it. It's just not one that I feel the need to rush out and buy now. I think if I find it and I have store credit, then I'll probably pick it up from one of my local bookstores and show them some support as well. But it's one where I'm glad I was able to get my hands on it early, because, and by early I mean earlier than I would have otherwise, because I did think it was a very sweet story. I also got access to the Mysteries of Thorn Manor, the audiobook specifically, through the app Libby. I did have to wait quite a while for this one because this one was pretty hyped, but it was also a novella that takes place after the events of Sorcery of Thorns. You do want to probably read Sorcery of Thorns before you pick this up if you are interested. And I had fun with it. It was cute. Similarly to Unseelie, if I find it at a local bookstore, I might try to pick it up, but I think I looked because it is a novella, so it's really short, and it's hardback, but it's quite expensive even for how small it is. And so that one I'm definitely really happy I didn't run out and buy it. But I also really liked that it feels as though, maybe, fingers crossed, that Margaret Rogerson is going to give us her first series, and it might be a continuation from where we leave off here, because it feels like she's setting up and alluding to some things at the end of Mysteries of Thorn Manor. I hope that's true, because I would love to see what she does with an actual series. Next up, we have a couple books that I DNF'd that I got physical copies of from the library, and I think I might have gotten the audiobooks as well. And that would be The Daughters of Izdihar and Riven. Of the two, I would be willing to pick Riven back up, but Daughters of Izdihar just had kind of a weird mix for me personally between the themes that it seemed like it wanted to showcase versus the actual tone and the way the characters behaved and spoke and the way those themes were shown. It felt like the themes themselves were mature, but how we were delivering them was a little bit on the younger side. And I have a weird pickiness when it comes to that imbalance, almost, you could say, if you can do it really well. If you can do the mix of, we have really, really funny moments and really heavy moments, or the themes are really, really quite tragic, but there's also lighthearted, goofy moments in the story, or something like that. If you do it really well, it's probably going to be a favorite. But when you don't do it in the way that clicks with me, I don't know what it is, but it just ends up not. It's like there's no middle ground. It's either, oh my gosh, this is the best thing ever, it has the whole full range of emotions, or it's at the bottom and I'm like, this isn't for me, and then I want to DNF it, and I did for Daughters of Ishtar. Riven, though, is one that I really thought the world was interesting. It seemed like we were going to be setting up for an interesting, pretty fast-paced plot, but it is young adult, and I've said quite a few times at this point, I am not within that age range, so sometimes it ends up working for me, and other times it does feel just a little youthful. And this is one where it felt like the plot was moving so quick that I didn't have time to really get to know the characters and their backstory and their personalities and all the things that I think adult tends to take a little more time with. Not always, of course, I'm painting with broad strokes here, but I'm glad I got these from the library, to repeat myself. That's it, though, basically, for some UNHAUL books and some library saves from the first quarter. It doesn't seem like I unhauled that much, and it's because I didn't have to, because of my library. So thank you again, library, for the 1,000th time, and also yay for my local used bookstores and for the app Pango. Thanks so much for watching, though. I hope you have a lovely rest of your day, and I'll see you all later. Bye.